sort of hill training that I incorporate into my training plans for mountain ultramarathons, mountain marathons, and even shorter trail races that involve a lot of climbing. Hill repetitions with alternating intervals. So they are going to be mixed between power hiking and running. Short fast steps versus long strides. So working two different energy systems in one training session. So you're working two different hill climbing techniques. Now previously I've done videos on hill sprints, on hill repetitions, and also on hill climb simulations, and each of those are different and unique. I've done videos on each of them as I mentioned, so I'll put a link to them on the screen now, so I'll just roll through the three. But ultimately this is the fourth and final workout that I do, specifically targeting increasing uphill speed. So let's get into the details of the workout and what it involves. So with these hill repetitions, there's two elements: short fast steps and then power hiking long strides. Running uphill increases the oxygen deficit, and that's just basically a way of saying that as you're using more muscles on uphill running versus flat running, then your body is requiring more oxygen. You will have experienced this yourself. When you go out running up a hill, your breathing becomes more laboured for the same speed as you're requiring more oxygen to utilise the muscle mass to get you up that hill, as it becomes more difficult to run up gradients. And this becomes very true if it's on steeper gradients as well. There's been quite a lot of research into this area of running uphill. One study found that the difference between running on flat and running on an incline was a 21% oxygen deficit. In another study looking at various gradients, it was found that the difference between a 10.5% average gradient and a 15% average gradient, the oxygen deficit rose from 37% up to 80%. So if you're going up a steeper incline, you're utilising more muscles, and therefore you're then more in oxygen deficit. Now that will change as well by the type of approach to going up the hill. And as I mentioned, this workout we have got two different techniques. One are short fast steps, so a high cadence, short steps, running essentially, but very short steps, and the other is power hiking, long strides, really exaggerating that movement. And that's where I mentioned right at the start of the video that this is a fantastic workout because you're working it in two different ways. And it's all about doing set times, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes of each of them, and alternating. To build these into your training plan, you'll need to find a hill of around a 30% gradient if possible. You can do these indoors on the treadmill as well, just put it to its maximum setting, and you'll just have to probably do it at a faster pace than if you're on, say, a 30% gradient outside. And then you are going to do timed intervals switching between the fast feet and the power hiking, the long strides. Now to start off with, it might only be 1 minute of fast feet, 1 minute of this power hiking, and that could increase to 3 up to about 5 minutes maximum, switching between the two. You'll probably find that you are working harder, it feels harder in one or the other, depending on where your strength lies in terms of your actual physiology. And ultimately you want to ensure that you're pushing to the same rate of perceived effort in both. You don't want, say, the power hiking to be a recovery period in between. And I find that depending on whether you're jogging or doing a power hiking, it works the leg muscles differently. So definitely feel it more in the calves when I'm jogging, and then in the glutes, for example, when power hiking. I aim to do a set amount of elevation in each of these, although you could just do a set number of repetitions. So I'll aim to do 300 meters or 500 meters and do that a couple of times. Ultimately, you can build this up, both the duration of the intervals and also the actual number of intervals or the amount of elevation achieved. So there's a number of different variables that you can play around with to tailor these workouts to suit your specific needs. And look at the race and the profile of the hills that are going to be in your race. So if they're only 200 meter climbs as the longest climbs, then I wouldn't aim to do 500 meters of elevation repeats, for example. So you can tailor that element of it as well. Also, if you are doing these outside, don't just think of the downhill as a recovery period. Although your heart rate will be lower, make sure you practice your running form as well. Rep 1 done, 500 meters of climbing. Amazing cloud inversion. Descent is obviously key for recovery, but also use it to practice your downhill running technique. So think about foot placement,
looking at the best lines to take, so you get an extra training benefit out of this session.
Now, before you start doing these workouts, it is important that you have a thorough warm-up.
Make sure you're well warmed up as well. So I've hiked up here, which has included about 300 meters of ascent just to get to the bottom of the steep hill. And then I've done some drills, high knees, walking lunges, lots of calf activation warm up as well, skipping, etc., just to make sure that everything's well warmed up before starting.
I aim to do at least sort of half an hour warm up beforehand, and that will involve some inclined running, so making sure that I'm doing a bit of work on a hill, maybe not 30%, but trying to get a bit of running up a hill to make sure the muscles are getting well warmed up and simulating what I'll be doing later on. So a bit of power hiking as well as a bit of fast feet running, and also doing dynamic stretches and drills ahead of the actual workout. So I don't want to be coming into this cold. On the treadmill, again, increase the gradient as part of your warm-up, so you're getting that activation, and also do things where you're going to be doing some leg swings, high feet, lunges, etc., so that you're getting warmed up ahead of the actual workout, because these do have a high risk of injury if you go straight into them, because you are working the body really hard. I will be doing a video as well about how you can incorporate and develop these in the training plan along with those other workouts that I mentioned, such as the hill repetitions, and how it can be a progressive workout. So I will be doing another video on that, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on that. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Also check out all my other social media links. They're linked down below, so on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. If you'd like to receive my weekly newsletter, there's a link to my website down below as well, and you can fill in the form there. It includes top training tips on a weekly basis, and I will see you next time.